Welcome to another episode of The Modern Hotelier. We're excited to release this episode with Roman Pedan, the CEO of Kasa. David, what were some of your favorite takeaways from this conversation?
Yeah, I've got to meet him twice now. Super smart guy. Kasa, very unique brand with the combination of boutique hotels and the apartment style. We've stayed at the Mint House, which they acquired in Denver. And I thought it was just very educational, and the tech play is something that most companies don't have.
Yeah, powered by Kasa was something I wasn't that familiar about, but really cool to hear. And, just to hear how, smart he is about technology, and obviously a really smart guy, but how Kasa incorporates technology. And it's not a one-size-fits-all approach, which kind of really stuck out to me. So I'm excited to hear what everybody thinks about this episode. Let us know in the comments.
Enjoy it. Welcome to The Modern Hotelier, the most engaged podcast in hospitality. Don't forget to follow, like, and subscribe. And let us know in the comments what you think about today's episode. Steve, who do we have on the program today?
Yeah, David, excited for today. We have on Roman Pedan, the CEO of Kasa. Thank you for joining us, Roman. How are we doing today?
Thanks for having me. Doing great. How are you?
All right, we're good. So, Roman, we're going to jump in. We're going to do a quick lightning round. We're going to get to know you better, and then we're going to dive into some industry topics. Sound good?
Let's go.
All right. What did you want to be when you grew up?
Oh, good question. Probably a scientist. I think science is the root of human advancement.
All right. What do you wish you were better at?
Architecture and singing. If I could sing better, I would. I only sing in the shower because it is a pain to everyone else when I do it in front of them.
All right. What's a luxury you can't live without?
I'm very simple. I like green tea, and I make it at home, and I like very nice tea. But because I make it at home, it's luxurious, but not oppressively expensive like if I was going out for it.
All right. Name a person, dead or alive, that you would like to take to lunch.
I would take Benjamin Franklin out to lunch. He is a polymath and the creator of the United States, the creator of the university I went to school at, Penn, a scientist. He was very reflective and thoughtful and is the root of many great ideas in modern day.
That's great. All right. If you could have a superpower, what superpower would you like to have?
I would find more time, and I would read more books if I had more time. There's a movie called About Time in which a family was able to go back in time, and what they used it for was to read a tremendous amount of books, and there's not enough time to read. So that's what I would do.
All right. Last one. What's something that's on your bucket list?
I think a bucket list should be infinite because it's kind of both exciting and depressing when you knock stuff off and then what do you do at the end of it? But I think going to space one day is both terrifying and exciting and hopefully becomes commonplace. But that one feels like it's far enough away that it will be hard to check off.
All right. Sounds good.
Awesome. That was great, Roman. So now we're going to dive into your background a little bit more. So you grew up in Swampscott, Massachusetts. Is that correct?
That's right. I was born in the Soviet Union in modern day Ukraine, but my family came over to Boston when I was north of Boston when I was 2.
Very nice. So how did being born in Ukraine and then growing up in Swampscott kind of shape you into who you are today?
So I feel a deep responsibility to my parents who took a big risk and left the relative safety of a place where they had friends, knew the language, and came to a foreign place where they needed to retrain in their professions, learn English, build a new community, all for me and my brother. And so there's a responsibility to that. There's also an entrepreneurial spirit that I admire in my parents. While I started a business, they were true entrepreneurs and started an entire new life and took a much bigger risk than I did. There's a resourcefulness of trying, that all they had was knowledge and education when they came over. And so knowing that through reading and through learning, you can harness more resources than otherwise, and being creative with what the resources that we have has been inspiring to me. And then lastly, travel. Obviously, travel was the start of my opportunities because my parents were able to move geographies to a land of opportunity. And so it's been inspiring to me from the start. And that's part of the impetus for being energized by the great industry we're all in.
Okay. And so, what drove your decision to study economics, finance, and real estate at the Wharton School of Business at the University of Pennsylvania, then pursue your MBA at Stanford?
Yeah, I wanted to make my Jewish parents proud. And so I chose the trifecta of majors that would do so. I wasn't a doctor or a lawyer, and so it was business and engineering felt like they were nice combinations. And it was two bachelor's degrees, so it was a 2-for-1 kind of combination. But joking aside, I was always really passionate about building, and computer science and engineering is all about building and economic and resourcefulness. As I mentioned before, economics is about how to allocate resources within scarcity. And I think that's one of the most important ideas that humans have to navigate, build systems that allow us to use our resources collectively in the most effective and efficient manner possible. And so I just really love both of those disciplines. And from a practical matter, I thought that they combined in an interesting way, and not many people had the experience and interest in economics, and also the experience and interest in computer science. And I studied real estate within Wharton at Penn as well, and so there was sort of this tangibility in real estate that it's a little bit trite when everyone sort of says that, but it's so true that you can feel it, you can see it. It fundamentally shapes the way that we interact with each other, and that societies are. It deeply impacts cities and societies and how they work, and so that's why I chose those majors.
Very cool. And you're a pretty adventurous guy. You're into surfing, skiing, a lot of outdoor activities, it seems like. Do you have a favorite adventure you've been on, or almost a favorite accomplishment you've had kind of through those adventure sports?
Good question. I haven't reflected on that in a little while. I like adventures, but probably not I have not been on adventures in the true sense of the word. I feel like for a real adventure, you have to have some semblance of real danger. But I think that every adventure I've been on, there's manufactured uncertainty or danger, not real. So, for example, I love skydiving. It feels unsafe, but if you look at the data, it's actually like
Yeah.
very safe. And same with bungee jumping. But if you were to, true adventure is kind of going into the Amazon rainforest by with just kind of like some tools. And I don't think I've ever quite done something like that. My favorite adventures are going to a place and meeting the people, and sort of trying to disconnect from the phone and trying to appreciate the sense of place like a local. So I've done that in Vietnam, and when I had some fun experiences going back to the Ukraine and to parts of Russia, and also enjoyed travels across different parts of Europe. And so every trip has its own kind of texture of adventure. But I think that it's not the kind of adventure that 300 years ago, when folks sailed the seas, they'd have, where there's true uncertainty.
That's great. That's great. So now we're going to dive into your career, how you became the CEO of Kasa. So in college, you co-founded Bridge the Gap, which was an online textbook price comparison platform. Can you tell us a little bit more about that, the background of that, and maybe what you took from that you still take with you at Kasa today?
Yeah, so we started this business. I started with my brother, and I was solving my own problem. Textbooks cost $300 per book. It's totally crazy, and the average person was spending, I think, $1,500 on books. And the average at the time, I know these are crazy numbers for public universities, they would be spending $6,000 on tuition, and so you're spending a meaningful portion of your dollars on textbooks. It seemed as if in every other industry, there were ways to save money. In the travel industry, price comparison is a very standard approach. And we basically built Kayak or Expedia for textbooks, where instead of buying your accounting book at the bookstore, we found you the lowest price across 40 different booksellers. And we also ingested the school syllabi so that you could look up by your class, find the books that were required, find the lowest price. And we as a company took a cut of every sale. So that was our business model. And then once you were done with the book, we helped you resell the book and then take a cut of that as well. It was a fun business. This was not a this solved our own problem. We sold something like $15 million worth of books
Wow.
and took a cut of each sale. We didn't raise money. It was profitable. It was a very small, not, it was four of us working on the company, but it was a lot of fun solving our own problem. So what I took out of it was, if you have a problem, perhaps that's a sign that there could be a company that solves it, and that it's immensely fulfilling to build something and then to see other people use it and get value out of it. My favorite thing was getting emails from students who told me how much they were saving on books, and there was just nothing more fulfilling than that. It felt really great to know that we were doing something that was helping people across the country. I mean, we were on many schools were using the platform.
I wish I would have known about that when I was in college. That would have been great.
That's a great story. So after college, you were on the private equity side at Walton Street Capital and then KKR. How did working in private equity help you as CEO of Kasa?
Yeah, private equity is very entrepreneurial. You are working on small teams to do big things, and you need to really understand every part of a business that you're investing in, whether it's an asset or a company, and then understand the highest leverage highest leverage ways to increase the opportunity set or reduce risk. And so it really gave me a big picture understanding of how to evaluate businesses, how to evaluate business models, and how to evaluate risk, and then bring that together into something that's actionable and shepherd teams to help accomplish our objectives. And the reason all of that is necessary is the private equity firms are small, so they really depend on others to provide them with leverage, and so that's what I got out of both places. And there, Walton Street is a very entrepreneurial place, and so I really got the drive and initiative to take action as well. And so those were great learnings from both places.
Awesome. And in 2016, you founded Kasa. What was, I guess, the straw that broke the camel's back that led you to start Kasa, and where'd that idea come from?
Yeah, I remember when I first heard about Airbnb in 2010 or 11, I was inspired by the idea that space can be used more effectively and that there's just empty apartments all over the country that we are not into that point on resource allocation and my interest in economics that we're just not utilized. And there was a way to utilize them where the pie is bigger. The people who live in the place make some money. The people who are traveling are able to get a experience they otherwise wouldn't have had. And so that was really inspiring. I actually sent a letter to Brian Chesky applying for a job at Airbnb when I was at Walton Street Capital, I think in 2010 or 2011, very early on. And so I was really inspired by that. I also, as a hotel investor at both Walton Street and KKR, we bought something like $1.2 billion of hospitality assets, mostly full service CBD assets. We did some adaptive office to hospitality conversions at both firms. I noticed that while we wanted to do certain things that made the properties more operationally efficient and were creative on the marketing and distribution and revenue management side, we often were inhibited to make changes by the existing brand standards or by the existing technology stacks that governed what we were able to do to operate assets. And it almost felt like we were in a straitjacket of unable to unleash the value in these assets. And even then, expenses were rising faster than revenue. That trend has only accelerated in the last decade. And so what I was experiencing viscerally, similarly to how I felt when I started the textbook marketplace, was a deep need for a different kind of hospitality, born out of Airbnb obviating a need for apartment style hospitality. They were solving a problem, but they were unreliable, right? You needed perhaps a provider that felt more reliable to a traveler, often your best and worst experiences on Airbnb. And for many trip types with your family or for work, you need it to just be reliable. And there was also a deep need that I noticed as an investor operationally to lower the costs of running hospitality and increase the amount of opportunity to drive a better guest experience that's more aligned and recognizable and modern to travelers, And that straitjacket that was inhibiting us at KKR felt like something that felt like the opportunity to start Kasa. And so it came out of these insights plus the thirst for that experience of building something that I had when I was building with my brother, and that feeling that I had when people use the product that we're putting into the world. And so I started the business out of Stanford Business School from those impeti.
It's awesome.
Is that a word, impeti? I don't know.
If it's not, it is now.
John, look it up, please. So, sticking with that theme, what sets Casa apart from other hospitality companies, and what properties and owners are the best fit for Casa?
Yeah. So what Casa is, we are on the surface above the kind of waterline of the iceberg. We are a hotel, an apartment hotel brand and manager. We operate 85 properties across the United States, uh, two-thirds of which are apartment style properties. They have kitchens and living rooms, sometimes multiple bedrooms that are perfect for families and groups and business travelers. They're either several floors of a larger apartment building, where the remainder of the apartment building are traditional unfurnished apartment rentals, or the entire apartment building that we run as a hotel. And we operate those any length of stay. And then the remainder of the properties are boutique hotels that have a really strong source of identity locally, that we operate in a way that drives higher profit to the property, fundamentally primarily by fundamentally lowering the cost structure of operating those properties, eliminating waste, automating, centralizing processes. A lot of work that we do is in the middle of the P&L, where we automate things like revenue management and corporate and group sales. We drive with more effectiveness and efficiency. And so that's what we do. Below the surface of the iceberg, we built our own property management system that fundamentally improves the profitability of the properties, and by lowering cost structure and improving our revenue generation capabilities. We work with a variety of owners, both institutional owners. We're trusted by the likes of Starwood Capital and Centerbridge, my former employers at KKR, and many, many other large institutions. And we're also really love working with local developers who infuse their heart and soul into building apartment style properties or hotel properties. And we're perfect in situations where you're building a new apartment community and are looking for ways to add to the bottom line to drive higher NOI. We drive more NOI than the alternative unfurnished rental by a decent margin in many cases. And we're also perfect for situations where you're operating in a boutique hotel and the existing formula is not working. You're looking for ways to lower the cost structure while continuing to deliver really high quality hospitality to the guest. What distinguishes Casa is the fusion of technology and operations. There are a lot of companies that build just the technology side, and they really are disconnected from how that activates in the operation. And there's a lot of hotel companies that control the operation, but they have to rely on third parties for the technology. And by creating the fusion between the two, we have a really closely knit feedback loop where we're building in a way that allows us to do things that otherwise would be very difficult in terms of lowering costs and delivering delight to the guest.
That's great. And there was a lot of big news that happened earlier in the year. We had obviously the news with Saunders happened, right? And then you all acquired Mint House as well. And we're a fan of Mint House. We actually stayed at one in Denver. Can you tell us about that acquisition and why Mint House was a good fit?
Yeah, Mint House really fit like a glove with our approach and ethos. They did a phenomenal job curating a brand of high quality properties across major cities that were apartment style hotels. We love that you stayed in Denver. We hope you stay with us over and over again. We bought the assets of Mint House at the end of last year, at the end of December, and we transitioned those properties to Casa operations within a month of purchase. And so integrated them, essentially moved them onto our hospitality platform, that part that I was referencing below the surface of the iceberg, with the intention of lowering costs, driving better guest experience, improving RevPAR index across the properties. And we're only a few months in, but we're seeing the improvements across those metrics. And one day we might open source the metrics just to articulate more clearly the before and after picture and the power of integrating the operations and technology. The reason that deal happened is hospitality in many ways is a scale business. It's very hard to run these businesses subscale. And while Midhouse curated a very high quality brand, they were subscale. So we added 800 units to Kasa. And as a result of that, we drove meaningful improvement in our EBITDA. And for them, they needed to be part of a larger platform in order to get those scale efficiency. And obviously, it helps that we're driving metrics above and beyond in terms of the operational performance of the actual assets, in addition to the efficiency of the management arm, which clearly benefits from having added scale.
Awesome. Awesome. So now we're going to dive into the industry thoughts and kind of what you're focusing here on hospitality. So obviously, Casa is a very tech forward company. Can you tell us how AI is affecting hospitality and really where you see it influencing results the most?
Yeah, and I view Casa as I think every company needs to utilize technology to succeed. It's sort of it's got to be part of your strategy for any company. We have engineers at Casa, product designers, so we have uniquely have the capability to build our own technology. But the product isn't the technology. The product is the end result that we drive to owners and the experience that we drive to guests. So often the best outcome is the technology is in the background. The guest feels as if they had a seamless experience. It was personalized. That arrival was easy. Nothing broke throughout their stay. They got their questions answered quickly. And so that to me it's not, I logged into a fancy app. It's, I had a really great experience. And for the owner, it's not an interface that looks great. It's a P&L that looks great, right? And so that's ultimately what we are solving for. Technology is a means to an end, and it's a powerful means to an end. It provides tremendous leverage, and that's why it has such disruptive elements to it. And at the same time, we are just as happy to get to that end operationally through scale, through creativity, through other means than just technology. So it is a very important element. It is distinguishing, and it's means to an end. In terms of AI, I mean, the world is fundamentally changing right now, and so I am extremely energized by what's possible. I studied computer science. What you can do with Claude, you can build with Claude Code what would have taken me weeks or months in hours, and people who are not engineers can easily do it. And so there's just going to be this Cambrian explosion of creativity as a result of all of the progress that is continuously being made. And so that's just globally. It's going to change the way people live. It's going to change the way people travel. It obviously will deeply change our economy. Narrowly in hospitality, we are deploying it across every element of Casa. Starting with personalizing guest stays. Every communication with our guests is digital, and so we can see your calls are transcribed, your texts, emails, reviews. All are summarized. Our team is given a way to personalize your stay for your second time staying with Casa. We are looking at all of our data to find the root cause of issues. So every signal across every property is categorized by our systems, and we are identifying the top few issues that cause the most problems for guests network wide and systematically addressing those. We're also doing that at the property level and giving access to that data to the GM. So you can do it at the unit level, at the property level, at the channel level, understand what the issues are within a given channel. If an Expedia guest has a different set of issues than other guests, we are helping our customer service team automate much of the communication that is mechanical, that AI can easily handle. Hey, can I get early check-in? Can I have a late checkout? Can I extend my reservation? Those things, a third of our messages are being handled by AI. And that is enabling our team to handle higher acuity messages. At the same time, we are measuring quality to ensure that when AI answers the question, the experience is better. And that's what we've been finding so far. But we've been very incremental and iterative in how we've deployed it in customer service, because a failure mode is over deploying it and causing a lot of issues for guests who feel like they're talking to a robot versus being helped in customer service. Then there's a tremendous amount of surface area in the commercial org, revenue management, obviously. Almost every decision that is mechanical and calculation oriented in revenue management should be done by our machine learning based algorithms. And then in the commercial org, across marketing and distributions, and corporate and group sales, there's tremendous opportunity. Each one of those could be you could speak at length about. But the way people book will change. It's only slowly changing right now. You're looking at the data. It's the behavior is changing very rapidly, but it's off a small base. But there is going to be fundamental shifts in how people book, where they book, and how properties react will need to match those changes. And so we're in real time optimizing and adjusting in those areas. So those are just a few places. And of course, our whole team is utilizing these systems. Our engineers are coding with AI, our data. We have a tool in our system where you can just ask for a data question rather than look up in a chart, and it will tell you any question you want about our portfolio. It will give you the answer. You just ask it in natural language. And so there's a lot of examples of it.
So we've got high tech coming up in June. You brought it up. There's the tech stack for hospitality hotels is just getting deeper and deeper. There's more tools, more systems. So how do you decide what to build?
Yeah, we have a relatively simple framework for deciding what to build, but it is nuanced when you actually bring it to life. The simple framework is we want to build the fewest things possible to obviously drive the most. Hopefully, every company is trying to do the least to deliver the most. That's resourceful. We are focusing only on building parts of the system that don't exist elsewhere or don't exist to our specifications. We measure, so we're not focused on lowering costs by building technology. Obviously, having it in house might allow us not to pay a third party vendor some amount of money. We're much more focused on enhancing capability where it doesn't exist otherwise and is core to our competitive advantage, or doesn't exist to our specifications and in some ways is inhibiting our ability to succeed. And so we look at that, the root cause of issues, as I sort of said, where we have data from every source and we're identifying issues with guests or opportunities that we want to deliver better experiences from. And we're seeing why those existed. And often when the root issue is related to one of our third party systems, that's a sign for us, if that's happening over and over again, that we should build it ourselves. It's surprising to me how often the technology gets in the way. I think it's because there are so many point solutions that are not as effectively stitched together and integrated together. And that leads to balkanization of data and handoffs that don't work as they were meant to, which I'm sure many guests have experienced when they book, even just like on a third party site. They get to the hotel and they don't have all the information about the reservations. That's one handoff between the booking source and their PMS. Maybe there's two, maybe there's a channel manager in between. But there are many handoffs between point solutions that cause issues. And so we've been knocking those down in order to build a more integrated solution that drives fewer issues and as a result delivers a better experience to guests and a better P&L to owners.
That's great. And you have something called Powered by Kasa, which you offer to which is an operating system that you offer to other hotel brands, management companies. Can you tell us how that is helping those folks, increase profitabilities and save time and money?
Yeah, for sure. So what we realized is we built something very unique that doesn't exist on the market because, as I said, there's no other operator that has built technology or no other technology provider who is an operator. And as a result, we've sort of built an operating system for ourselves that powers our properties, and we can show the before and after on the P&L, in the expense structure, in the revenue production, in the review scores, and it's really a meaningful improvement in results. And we know from talking to the industry that building a management company is extremely difficult. It's hard to be subscale. Building a new hotel brand is also really difficult. And as a result of that, and very costly. And as a result of that, we've had a paucity of creativity, I think, in the industry, where not as many new brands are being built today. I want that creativity. I want the to unleash the potential of hoteliers who want to create something new. But to do so today, you have to be an expert, not just in placemaking and in the delivery of hospitality, which is often what drives hoteliers into the industry, not just in perhaps finding the right spot, which is perhaps the most important thing for a managing company, finding the right location, the right property to succeed on, the right definition of the brand, but also a lot of back end capability. You have to architect and build an accounting and finance org and a revenue management and commercial org. And you need to stitch together 20 different technology tools. And it might seem from the outside fun and important to do those things, but really those are not the sources of competitive advantage for hoteliers. And what we are very good at is those million details that you need to get right on the back end. And because we've had a feedback loop for 9 years now building the company of how to stitch those together really effectively, we have a very honed system. And so similar to Shopify, which helps a lot of which unleashed creativity in the consumer world, we are selectively, we don't have this on our website, offering Powered By to the right partners. And the reason I say selectively is we want to make sure that we are powering hotel management companies and brands that we really believe in. And we'd rather partner with a few where we can really drive an outcome than partner with many and not deliver as curated and focused of an experience for them. And so, yeah, we are doing that to lower their cost structure of their companies, drive more EBITDA, allow them to focus on where they're best at, and then deliver better experiences to their guests and to the property P&Ls while allowing them to control their brand and the hospitality delivery for their properties.
Yeah. And so we're seeing the lines blurred a little bit now between hotels, apartments, short-term rentals. Are we going to be seeing more of this, and how should developers be designing assets for the future?
Yeah, there's a huge opportunity in apartment hotels. It is a very underserved market. I believe it to be one of the fastest growing parts of the hospitality industry. Part of why it's underserved is Airbnb obviated the need for this product. And then it was an incomplete solution because often, the experience, as I said, was your best and worst. But also, increasingly, there's been legislation that has meant Airbnb is underserved in many great American cities. And so, where you can get the right entitlements and licensing, and we always operate with hotel licensing in the properties we partner with, you can have a unique product that is in great demand, that is undersupplied in cities like Boston and New York and DC and San Francisco and LA and other cities like it. And so there's a great need for this kind of hospitality, and I expect more and more developments will, as a default, either have a component of the building be hospitality or the entire property be hospitality when it's an apartment style use. And it is enabled by more flexibility when people travel, right? People have increasingly become more and more flexible over the last 15 years. So you need a living product that matches the demand side of how people live and travel. And so I'd expect that to happen. Now, with that being said, I really believe in building in flexibility into the product. The ability to flex between apartment and hospitality is really powerful. It uses the space more effectively. And at the same time, I think it's important for real estate to be intentional and have an opinion and a point of view. And if you are building too much flexibility into the property and you're hedging too much, you're saying, I want to always be able to serve 4 different markets, then you're not serving any of the markets as effectively. And so you want to be, and that's something we've gotten very good at, is figuring out the places where it is a no regrets move to build in the flexibility, and some places where, yes, you can build in the flexibility, but then you're becoming a little worse for both. And so you're not serving either demand as effectively. I've always believed and become more ardent in my belief that it's better to be really, really great at serving a niche than it is to be okay at serving a lot of different demand types of demand in any industry, not just in hospitality. And so you want to build in flexibility, but you don't want to overhedge And so those are kind of that's the line you want to balance.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. One thing that I think is really cool about Casa is you guys don't have a one size fits all approach to your properties. What do you think the next generation of the hospitality tech stack looks like maybe in the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, I would expect that more and more of the trends that have been happening over the last decade or maybe 15 years, or even some of these 100 years will continue to happen. So increasingly, there will be more and more centralization in systems and processes that don't need variability at the local level. So things that just need to output in a very reliable way, they'll be centralized in order to gain efficiency and lower costs. I'd expect processes to be simplified and automated more and more, and to that by virtue of need, there's going to be a need for finding more efficient ways to operate properties. The increase in expenses over revenue, the faster growth in expenses over revenue, is unsustainable long term. And the system we live in of capitalism creates a survival of the fittest mechanism to ensure that those who are figuring out creative ways to operate properties more efficiently end up winning. And so I'd expect that to continue. The thing that I think will be different is the approach that has been taken over the last 15 years to get there was a bunch of point solutions that tried to gain efficiency for hoteliers by solving small problems individually for them. And there's a lot of economic logic why that's been the case. It's very easy to sell a point solution to a hotelier. But the problem that hoteliers are waking up to today is that they were sold all these software products that were meant to make their P&Ls more efficient. And they woke up in having a more complex set of technologies in their properties and less efficiency. And part of the reason for that is the way that these products interface with each other. Part of it is that the limiting factor often wasn't addressed at the root. So you can, make a few end processes more efficient, but there's some limiting factors that are not being addressed. And so I would expect more unification of systems into next 5 to 10 years to see the whole orchestration of the work that needs to happen within a hospitality context, and then by having it all under one roof, almost like Mac versus PC, where everything is under one roof under a Mac, being able to actually deliver on the promise of technology of lowering costs and delivering a better experience by removing those places where handoffs happen, and also actually identifying true bottlenecks in the delivery of hospitality and being able to solve them end to end. Often the bottlenecks when you have a thousand different vendors cannot be solved unless all the vendors come together and work together. And so, I mean, that is why one of the reasons why Powered by, I believe, is necessary, because that it is the unification of those systems. So I'd expect that. I'd expect revenue management to be increasingly automated. Machine learning beat humans in AlphaGo. It is a more complex game than the revenue management game, and revenue managers should become revenue strategists. They should take a higher level approach to their decision making. I don't really know why night auditors still exist at many hotels. So that will change. And so there's a bunch of hotel distributions in the next 5 to 10 years is going to, in my view, look very different. The internet created the opportunity for Expedia to exist. AI is going to change the way people book, and so it will also change the way the distribution world looks as well. So that will be fundamentally different in the next 5 to 10 years. One thing that I think about is, given all these changes, I believe the next 5 to 10 years is going to be some of the most dynamic in the world and in hospitality. It's some of the most uncertain. I have some bets, but I'm just not sure exactly where the world will go. And am somewhat interested in how owners are willing to sign up for 30-year contracts in the face of not knowing what the world will look like in 5 years. If you ask an owner, what do you think distribution will look like in 5 years? What will be the power of loyalty programs in 5 years? They probably admit, I'm not really sure. The world is really changing. And yet signing up for a 30-year contract with a counterparty that's misaligned with you because they're being paid off revenue versus being paid off bottom line has always been somewhat confusing to me, perhaps a little controversial to say, but Charlie Munger used to say, show me the incentive and I'll show you the outcome. Well, if someone's getting paid off revenue and they can't be terminated for 30 years, I can tell you the outcome. And the outcome over the last 10 years is the C Corps growing in their stock prices while the owners losing profit. And so that needs to change over the next decade.
Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. So this is the part of the show, Roman, where we turn the tables and let you ask David and I a question.
Yeah. So where are you skeptical about what I'm sharing? I'm curious how it resonates, and I'm sure some of your listeners are interested. Perhaps they have questions. So what do you expect? Where do you expect the source of skepticism are, or what resonates really with you all on what I've been sharing?
I mean, obviously, look, I mean, I'm not saying anything that you haven't already heard or thought about, but obviously people always get skeptical when it's kind of you're building the technology yourself and the thought of, okay, well, is it going to be best in breed? What I like what you said is where you're using technology and it's not serving your purpose and you build it. So you're kind of, you're realizing like, hey, we're not going to build everything, but if it's not satisfying our need, we're going to build it. So I think, the listeners would probably be like, well, wait a second, how is their PMS ever going to be as good as Oracle's Opera or, their CRM or, their CRS. But I think you hit home some really good points about, really finding where the pain is and making sure that you're building the solution that eliminates that pain. Because I would say if you ask any hotelier, they're going to have pain with those outsourced technologies anyway. So it's not as if they're all perfect. So.
And I would say, how could Oracle, I would actually turn it, maybe it's a fundamental assumption. How could Oracle's PMS, Oracle runs 0 hotels. Uh,
Good.
they have no pain when there's a problem. When a check-in doesn't work or data is in the right place, they feel nothing. They get paid not off the bottom line, but on a software license that is a long-term contract with you. They know it's really hard to rip them out from your system. So they're not super concerned if something is broken. Look at how long it took for them to get into the cloud game. And so, I turn it I turn it the other way is how could someone who has no experience operating a hotel deliver a better system than folks who are viscerally impacted if the system doesn't work?
Yeah,
I agree. Coming from the PMS space, I could not agree more on that one. I think one thing that I think of is I think people are going to want more human touch when they
Yeah,
are
I agree.
staying at properties. I think people are getting a little, not over AI, but it's like, we've talked about this a few times. Like, I want to see the actual person. I want to see a person right on LinkedIn. I want to see, who this person is, not Chat GPT or Claude or something like that. So I think people want a little bit more personality. And, some people I think are going to go to hotels to experience more human touch and things like that, because I think we're going to see a lot more automation. We're going to see a lot more technology at the forefront and kind of properties showcasing their technology, which I know you guys kind of have it in the background and things like that. But I think we're going to want more personalization. When you walk into a hotel, people are going to not want to wait at the front desk, but be greeted by somebody at the front desk. So that's the only thing that I could really think of. But I think you guys do a pretty good job with technology, and you make the process easy. I know that. So that was my 2 cents.
And I agree with you. What our North Star isn't to make technology replace hospitality, it's to accentuate it. Danny Meyer, we gave every single person who joins Kasa gets Danny Meyer's book, Setting the Table. So if nothing else comes out of it and you haven't read Setting the Table, buy that book, and maybe Danny Meyer will give me back to the book days. Uh, but he came on our all hands and he shared something, and he said, high tech does not mean low service. In fact, he said, you guys are high tech, high service, high margin hospitality. And that is kind of our ethos. How do you get the front desk person from, they're doing night audit? That's not hospitality. And instead, getting them out from the administrative work and instead in front of the guest. And so what we want to eliminate is the mechanical and the manual. And we want to enable and increase the amount of time that the team has towards the hospitable. And different properties will have different service levels, right? A 5-star property, you want it to be a different touch level than a limited service property. And so you have to match the service to what the experience is, but you want to make sure that it's possible across all those property types to get the person from behind the desk and in front of the guest.
100%. 100%. So, our producer, John, he's been listening this whole time. We're going to kick it over to him for the final question before we get you out of here.
Here we go.
Here we go. First things first, I did a fact check. The plural of impetus is impetuses.
Impetuses.
Yes.
If you learn nothing else other than the Danny Meyer book, impetuses, which by the way is a difficult thing. I feel like
that's
it's a
hard to
difficult
say.
thing to
Yeah,
say.
impeti feels like it feels right. So, kudos to you.
It discriminates against people with retainers and braces. Impetuses
that's
is
right,
an
that's
impossible word to say
Yeah.
at that. Yeah.
Well, moving on. You said something kind of in passing. I just want to highlight because we talk about AI all the time, but you said like, is it when AI is used, is it making the experience better, the guest experience better? And if not, then you're not going to do it, because I think we just said, well, does it make it more efficient on the back end for hotels? Can we do it? Just because we can do it and maybe it's more efficient, maybe it's not the right answer. So like, is it a bad experience for the guests to interact with a chatbot or do whatever? So I think that's a useful lens to kind of frame things. Now moving on to my question. I was looking at your portfolio, like on the website as you were having the conversation, and you have a lot of interesting and unique portfolio, and you kind of mentioned it from the real estate side. But I'm curious, like with that kind of portfolio, do you get to see or have you seen guest behaviors, patterns, or like feedback that you found interesting or particularly insightful?
Yeah, it's interesting. We have a reasonably high repeat rate and cross network repeat rate, which we really like. Something that's insightful is some of our guests, the feature can be they want to be left alone, and others want the really high touch hospitality. So there's a lot of travelers who are independent and self reliant. And to your earlier question on adventure, they view it as sort of exciting that they kind of are taking the bull by the horn of their own travel experience. And so they prefer to go straight to their room, to text us if they need something, and then we stay out of their hair. And then there's a set of guests who love being pampered. They love high touch. And so high touch for everyone, oddly, is not the right answer. It's figuring out which guests want what and then serving them in the way that they prefer. Sometimes I want to go straight to my room, and sometimes I want a very personalized and high touch experience. And so that's been interesting. And it's actually a high percentage of guests who really it's like over 50% of guests really, because we ask them in the booking, how do you get to this answer? You just ask the guest, what do you prefer? And over 50% prefer I just want to kind of get to my room. And then we make sure that that is seamless and that we still give a personalized touch in the room. We write a handwritten note, things like that. And for the others, we are a little more hands-on.
How do you solve for that within like multiple behaviors within a property? So, you mentioned you asked them the question, and then like, does each Kasa property have staff that can deliver that high touch service if needed? Like, or how do you guys think about that?
Yeah, so we have a range of properties, from properties that have 24/7 fully staffed front desks and properties that the entire experience is self-directed and there's no front desk. And usually what informs that is the owner's vision, the size of the property, the RevPAR of the property. And so there are, even in the properties that are no 24/7 front desk, we can still, we have staff in the market, complex across properties, and we can deploy them in a more precise way to make sure a guest who really wants that higher touch stay can have it. Though we also will be upfront with customers and share that, hey, this is not limited service experiences are different from full service experiences, and so be upfront of what the property is for the staffing level, and then even within that, work to ensure that the team is, maybe meets a guest if they really want that experience for a specific arrival versus others that are more comfortable with the self-directed approach. In a 24/7 operations, which we have quite a decent number of, that's where you have the whole gamut very easily deliverable with the staff at the property. And then the key is in the workflow for the team, obviating what the guest wants in their flow. So showing information in the multi-calendar and the reservation profile that allows them to very quickly understand what the traveler prefers.
Well, that does it for another episode of The Modern Hotelier. Roman, this is where you get a chance to let people know how they can get in touch with you, how they can find out more about Kasa.
Yeah. If you're building a new property, doing office to hotel, office to apartment conversion, or just want to chat about Powered By, you can email me, roman@kasa.com. It's with a K, not a C. You can go to our website at kasa.com, find me on LinkedIn. And I don't have any other social media, so that's the only way.
All right. Well, that does it for another episode of The Modern Hotelier, the most engaged podcast in hospitality. Whether you're watching or listening, we appreciate you and hope to be with you again soon. Thanks for joining us, Roman.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. You made it to the end of The Modern Hotelier. Thanks for watching or listening. The Modern Hotelier is produced by Modern Hotelier Media. Make sure to like and subscribe if you're listening on YouTube, or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. If you know a good guest, sponsor, or have media needs, feel free to reach out to us at hello@themodernhotelier.com. Thanks and have a great day.